And then with the Freestyle 88, for you in particular, that was one of your main, if not the main showcase for you on the album, I'd say.
Well, what it was is that I was in high school and I was part of the group. Muggs really didn't do much on that album. You know, he was just there, but he was, you know, he helped out, of course, because him being a DJ. But even if you think about it, this is one thing that I'll say after I answer your question. But to answer your question, they needed me to participate because I was part of the group. So they was like, yo, so when I came out there, they just had that. Doug Drisby was like, yo, just spit a rhyme. And he was the person on the bass, former Philadelphia Sixers, Philadelphia Eagles lineman. He played the bass. He got on the bass and Doug just kind of did the bass while I was rhyming. And that was just bass and rhyme, period. And I was just, you know, I was influenced, you know, I was just rhyming. I was just spitting. I'm probably sure you want, you know, but it wasn't specific to creative design. It was specific to the group needed to have me participate more. And so that was, by the time I got there a couple of times, the album was almost done. So they was just like, yo, we need to put you on here, other than just ad-libs. You know, I had wrote a lot, but I didn't, I wasn't there to participate to perform it. And my brother's voice, you know, when I got there, I wasn't used to the studio. I already told you about my incident with Ice-T. Now I'm coming back to the studio again, and Joe was more of a perfectionist when it came to the studio. So I'll be in there and I got a subtle voice. So I'll go in and be like, I need you louder. So then I'll go, yo, and I'm animated. So you're going in and out of the mic. You're popping your P's. So he was so intricate in reference to his sonically how he needed it to sound, that it was a frustrating thing for me when I got there. And they was getting just as frustrated with me as I was getting with them. So that was the reason why we just knocked that out real quick. We got through it, and a lot of the stuff that I had written I was supposed to be on, we just did at shows, because at that point they was like, yo, we just need to wrap this album up because we already been out in Philly for like a month and a half. So the bills were amounting and Geffen was getting real leery about the investment that they made. So it was like, yo, we got to hurry up and get this done. So that was kind of what happened with Freestyle 88. I just came in and they want to include me. So that was the inclusion.
Okay.
Something that I specifically love, but it was just something that we needed to do again.
Okay. And on Express the Mind too, I was always intrigued the different breakdown of the name, 7-4 Lie and all that stuff. So do you remember why you guys ended up having that on there?
Yeah, I mean, we were conscious. So we knew of 5%ers, we knew of Islam, we knew of Christianity. We taught ourselves. We were self-taught in many different things, religion being one, and universal religion, depending on how you want to look at the God bodies, being the other. So we was very well versed in a lot of different things and had a lot of influences that was part of that. And that was one of those songs. Express the Mind was one of those songs that we was chiming into that intellect. And so, Rakim had came out, God Body, so we understood it, and we, the Nation of Islam, Farrakhan, with PE, we were introduced to Farrakhan and Nation of Islam. So we was very well versed. My brother was like half, he was following the Muslim tradition, but he wasn't a specific Muslim. He didn't traditionally go worship, but he was following the Muslim religion, and that's kind of what influenced some of those songs or some of the lyrics that you're referring to. Okay.
And then Daddy-O, of course, produced a couple songs on Coolin and Cali as well. Hit 'Em Again is one. So when you were you in studio yourself with Daddy-O as well?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
That's an element, because by the time I came, we hadn't done Daddy-O yet. We was just in Philly. So when I came, after I did Freestyle 88 and it was wrapping up and doing the songs that were done in Philly, we went to New York. That's why I was participated in those songs as opposed to the Philly songs. So when I came there, we did Hit 'Em Again. We did Half Bold and Half Inch. And I was there. You know, we were doing it as a group at that point. Coolin and Cali was done during that time we was in New York, but I had to go back and graduate. So it was kind of like, you know, I would come in, and so I just did ad-libs on Coolin and Cali. A lot of the little funny voices, they had me being the Flavor Flav of the group at that point. So yeah, I was there. Yeah, we was in the studio with Daddy.
So how do you compare, or what did you learn differently from Daddy-O compared to Joe the Butcher?
Daddy-O was more street. If you listen to Hit 'Em Again and Half Bold and Half Inch, they had that hip hop sonically, that graspy hip hop feel to it. You know, that was Daddy-O. You know, it had that top billing, you know, Stets, Ghost Stets, you know, bottom to it. That was a lot of Daddy-O. Joe, like I was just sharing with you, was more sonically trained to where his crispness, he was like a Dr. Dre of Philly. You know, when I was in the studio with Dre would, he'll spend a half hour to an hour, him and Quick both will spend a half hour to an hour just on one channel, just going through each of the channels. And that was more or less how, not as in depth as Joe would do, but that's what Joe was sonically trained for. That's why he would say, you're going in and out of the mic, you're popping your P's and all of those stuff, your volume. So he was more sonically versus Daddy-O was more hip hop driven than, and street driven than, you know, he learned from doing it. I would assume that Joe might have went to school or something or learned from musicians. You know, he was in Philly. A lot of historic Philadelphia studios probably taught him, where they was more into musicianship, you know, the intricate parts of sonically sounding good. Whereas Daddy-O was just, yo, we're gonna make it sound good. So it was a lot different from that standpoint.
Okay. And then when Coolin and Cali, the album comes out and you guys tour, you do this, you do that, what did you learn about the process, and why didn't things continue with Geffen?
Well, what happened with Geffen, here's David Geffen's genius. Geffen wasn't signing hip hop because he was interested in it. Geffen was building his overall roster as a label and needed urban music so that he can sell it. So us being on Geffen wasn't specific to him having this brainchild and wanting to be part of hip hop. It was him, because he also signed David Pearson, Christopher Williams, a bunch of urban stuff. He had Silk Tom's Lover, Jermaine Dupri, first production and group. He did all of that at the same time because he was basically cushioning his label, because he was planning on selling his label to MCA. So what happened was, it wasn't that we got off of Geffen. Geffen sold all that urban, you know, they merged with MCA, and all of that urban acts went over to MCA. Now, MCA at the time as well didn't really know hip hop. They knew R&B, but they didn't really know hip hop. That's why Christopher Williams was able to have more success than the 7A3, because they too. So it wasn't, we just kind of got caught in my first merger of the industry. So I learned a whole lot from that experience, to your question previously, because yeah, it was a lot of business that was going on that I was just part of and didn't realize it. But that was the genius of him. He sold he got 51% of the merger, and that's when he first became a billionaire. David Geffen is when he made that merger. And so he was really just padding his roster so that he could look like he had Guns N' Roses, White Snake, Cher. So he had significant, he basically owned the rock side of the industry at that point. And so what he wound up doing is for him to go into that, as he was going into that merger, he was just padding his roster so that he can go ahead and say, oh, I got urban stuff. I even got some hip hop stuff. I got, you see what I'm doing with this rock stuff. We're just growing and growing. And then he was able to get that merger, own 51% of it, and become a billionaire through that merger. So salute to Geffen and teaching me that part of the business.
Yes. Part of the business, of course, is songwriting, and Brett worked on Cypress with Hand on the Pump. So as you guys were expanding, Cypress was coming out, different things were happening. How did you find your transition moving into other aspects of the industry?
I mean, to be honest with you, it was pretty easy. And in hindsight, I would have done it differently because I didn't know that I knew as much as I knew about the business. But my transition is I just wanted to go back, and you got to realize I left the industry as an artist because they shelved our second album. Our second album was supposed to come out, and we were supposed to be launching and introducing Cypress Hill's Funk Dubious, my man Mac Daddy J from East New York, and a couple of other artists that we were that we had featured on the album. And we went on tour. That's when Muggs was still kind of doing Cypress on the low. Brett and I, all of us was managed by Barry Hankerson at the time, and Barry's throwing plays. This is before he had R. Kelly. As a matter of fact, when he went and got R. Kelly. So we was on the plays with R. Kelly. That's where we met an 11-year-old Aaliyah and, you know, a bunch of other people that had significantly made an impact on the industry. And while we were doing that, we came and we went to MCA and we presented the album because of the merger. That was a lot of the reason why things didn't just come out, because they were still trying to figure out who was in charge, who was going to handle the music. You know, they were merging basically. So they didn't have the staff. They were still rebuilding the staff and all of that. So by the time they rebuilt, Ernie Singleton, which was Barry Hankerson's friend at the time, who was the president over urban music at MCA. And I went into the meeting. I was always the business person of the group, even though I was the youngest. They were more the creators and I was more of the business. So I was in there and I spoke, we had a meeting with Ernie, and I said, yo, Ernie, he said, do you have any questions before we leave? Because everything was on a good vibe. We getting ready to do it, do the album. Everything was a great vibe. He said, you have any questions? I said, yeah, yo, if you're not gonna put this out, could you let us go now so that we can still, while the album is still fresh and we can still have it? He's like, nah, yo, don't worry. We already doing the album cover. We already got everything in process. We can already put this out. You know, that's not nothing to worry about. I say, Barry, you know this man, it's your man. Is it true? He's like, yeah, that's my man. Don't worry. If he says this, it's good. And this is what I'm thinking. So what happened is they shelved the album. And I feel like it was right before Christmas. So I'm like, yo, this man, he playing with my life. And I wound up seeing Ernie Singleton at a Gladys Knight concert. Gladys Knight, I had a razor in my mouth. And I'm sitting there like, yo, man, that's that cat right there. Yo, I'm ready. You know, and now I'm going back to East New York mentality. That's what I can't, you know, that, yo, you want to fight on Hollywood Boulevard mentality. And that was never my character. But this guy to me was violated our whole life and lifestyle. And I'm like, yo. So Brett was like, nah, we had a Gladys Knight concert. And Gladys Knight was married to Barry Hankerson. So out of respect for Barry and my brother, you know, telling me, it was like, nah, I can't do nothing. And I'm sitting there, Ernie don't even recognize me. He don't even know who I am. And I'm sitting there rubbing shoulders with the cat, sitting there like with the Ray. I'm like, yo, if he only knew, is what I'm thinking. After that reflection, I left the industry and I went back to East New York, and I was done. I was like, yo, man, this is a bull crap industry. And I saw myself going, I would have been locked up, Suge Knight, or dead. You know, I would have been one of those three. because after I would have, one of those three would have happened. So here I am. I got out of, I got into the music to get out of that whole mentality of East New York. And here I was again, kind of feeling the same way. So I left the industry. So to move forward to your question, as I was sitting in East New York, and now I'm even getting more, I just went to a normal life, and I was delivering pizzas, and I was working at a print shop. My man Divine was the manager of. He gave me a job, and I worked my way up there, and I was enjoying it. I wound up getting my daughter's mother pregnant, and here I was looking at MTV, and I see Son and them. Now they're on MTV, and I'm like, yo, here there's a pie that I helped bake, and I ain't even getting no crumbs. I said, so my pursuit to get back in the industry, I said, I'm gonna go back in the industry, but this time I'm gonna learn the business. And I went in with the intention of going to learn the business, and that's how I transitioned. It was intentional that when I was entering it back, not as a creative, I wanted to know the business, and that's what I wound up doing. And like I said, if I was to go back, I would have viewed, because I didn't want any affiliation with 7A3. That was the mistake that I would have definitely not have done. Like I would go into Sway and Tech, or I would go into King M's and the Joint, or what have you. I'm sorry. I would go into these places, and bear with me, I got to plug up my phone.
Yep.
And I would bring Son Doobie and to these places, and they'd be like, yo, 7A3, you want to rhyme? And I had to kind of fall back and be like, yo, I can't rhyme. Because one, I was still a little nice. I might have outshined who I was bringing up there. Two, I wanted to remove myself from that. And had I known better, I would have embraced that. If the person wasn't as nice as me, then they wasn't on that job, and they should have been on that job from somebody who wasn't even rhyming anymore. So that's how I look at it now. But back then I was always like, nah, I want everybody else to shine, and I wanted to learn the business. So that's how I transitioned into the business side of it. And I went as an intern, ironically, at a place at Buzz Tone Immortal. And here it was, this is a place that I helped build, and I didn't even realize how impactful we were to that whole scenario. And here I am being an intern when I could have just went in there and got a job doing whatever I wanted, had I understood my position in the industry a little better. And so that's why I went into it. And had I respected my influence and my position in the industry better, it would have been a whole different thing. But, I learned a lot from those experiences. And although I knew a lot, because when I went into my first job, right, I'm reading the charts, I'm doing all this, and the person who I was interning for was like, yo, how you know that? And I looked at him like, how don't you know it? You working here. And that's when I realized, man, I learned a whole lot as an artist. I learned more than I could ever have known. So it just, I gradually grew, and that's how I got into the business side of it, deliberately.
And what are you working on now that you want to let people know about?
My beverages, Brett, my partner Marvin Green, and I, this is a CBD infused water. This is one of our companies that we're doing. We also have a production company that we're doing some, we're getting ready to do Chef B&B as a production company. We are also, I was listening, I went and saw Brett the other day. He got some 7A3 tracks, ironically, and he's producing now. So, and it's sounding real good. Makes me want to possibly grab a mic again. But that's exclusive for you. Nobody else knows that. But I gotta say, the tracks are really feeling good. And it's funny because now I like the position, because we're not doing it to be artists. We're doing it to enjoy music like we originally started. When this industry became a job to me, I hated it. When rhyming became a job, I hated it. So now I'm at the point where rhyming is not a job, it's just something I like to do. I haven't done it in a while, but it's something that I started out doing it because I enjoyed it. And that's kind of where we are now. And that's when I heard some of those tracks. I'm like, oh, yo, that, all right, B, all right. So, you know, that might be something else that's bubbling up under. We also are doing a production between Media Heist and Crystal Green and Ian Bolden. We're probably going to do a 7A3 documentary regarding how we influenced and how we helped out the industry, or just our lives in the industry, basically.
Well, you know, if you need a writer, producer, director.
Well, guess what? We can talk about that offline, because quite frankly, yeah, you are well versed in that, and I've been noticing some of your work. So I am not opposed to that whatsoever. We just got to make sure we got the budgets to be able to hire you.
There you go. Budgets are important, yes.
Absolutely. I understand the business now. You see what I'm saying?
Well, there it is. Well, Sean B, man, it's an honor and a privilege catching back up with you as always. And how can people find you on social media?
Sean Bolden, SeanBouldin is me on Facebook, Instagram, everything. Now, our company is My Beverages, MY dash or hyphen beverages, BEVERAGES. That is our website.com. Official My Beverages is our Instagram. Official My Beverages is our Instagram handle. My brother Brett, his Instagram is BB7A3. So you can find him there. And like I said, me, I'm Sean Bolden, Sean B, however you know me. White boy from the town of Brooklyn, out here in LA.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it as always. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. Good. Thank you again, Soren. Always salute to you. Give you your flowers, because you've been doing this for a long time, and I've been watching your growth as well, and I'm real proud of it. So continue doing what you're doing, and if I can be helpful, you got me.